good evening. This is Hound Dog Steve coming to you on the 14th of January, and that is a very chilly Monday evening. And welcome back to all of my subscribers and to any new subscribers joining me this evening. Please sit yourself down and get ready for a good view. First is the absolutely draconian and absolutely unconstitutional drinking and driving laws that have been brought in by the Liberal government that took effect December the 18th, 2018, and we're now seeing the full effect of these laws and the implication, and really they have taken out the whole idea of innocent until proven guilty and the protection that we should all have against illegal search and seizure. So the drinking and driving laws go back to 1995, and the police had a really hard time trying to introduce the whole idea of a ride program and stopping drivers, because it was considered so unconstitutional, because you actually have the same rights inside your car as you have inside your home. You're protected by that vehicle, and the officer has to prove there is some reason for pulling you over. And then ride programs were allowed. However, these ride programs were not to be a fishing trip. You could only ask one question, and that was, have you been drinking this evening, sir? And if the answer was no, they had to let you go, unless you showed any symptoms of being drunk and disorderly, or under the influence of any other inebriating substance. Now they can basically pull you over at any time. Anyway, there's a couple of articles on this that I'm going to show you, and we're going to go through a little bit of it and some of the Constitution. I think you will be absolutely staggered, and I think that you will feel, as I do and many others that I've spoken to, is that we have moved into a kind of police state. I find there's two things I find absolutely interesting about this, is that basically Canada is an aging population. Okay, about 65% of the population are now up in their 60s to 70s. That is more than half. Okay, crime statistics are falling off a cliff. So, we've gone from the Sheriff Andy kind of police officer to now where we have a kind of paramilitary police force who are armed to the teeth. And anyways, you'll see one of the consequences of this law. I've got a little clip lined up for you, and I'll show you that in a minute. Okay, so let's go take a look at these stories, and then I'll come back and have a quick wrap up. Okay, here we go. Okay, so here's the first little stop. This is the Constitution Act of 1982, Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And we're going to go down here to number 8. Everyone has the right to be secure against unreasonable search or seizure. And down here, 11D, to be presumed innocent until proven guilty according to the law in a fair and public hearing by an independent and impartial tribunal. Okay, CBC. Canadians could now be charged with drunk driving even if not drunk, lawyers warn. Even drinking within 2 hours after you stop driving can get you charged. A tough new impaired driving law that came into effect late last year is a breach of the Charter, says Toronto criminal defence lawyer Calvin Barry. Canadians could now face criminal charges for driving with illegal amounts of alcohol in their system, even if they were stone cold sober while behind the wheel. Under tough new impaired driving laws passed by Parliament, according to criminal defence lawyers. Bill C-46, which came into effect last month, gives police wide-ranging powers to demand sobriety tests from drivers, boaters, and even canoeists. Police no longer need to have any reasonable grounds to suspect you're impaired or driving with blood alcohol concentration, BAC, of more than 0.8, which is 80 milligrams of alcohol in 100 millilitres of blood, before demanding you submit to testing. Refusing the test can result in a criminal charge. But while the government says that's not the intent of the law, even drinking within 2 hours after you stop driving or boating could now get you arrested if your BAC arises over 0.8. And here is defence lawyer Daniel Brown, says part of the bill may be unconstitutional. I think anyone should have a problem with this legislation because it's unconstitutional, Toronto lawyer Daniel Brown said. When introducing the bill, Federal Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould said the law would help crack down on people who consume large quantities of alcohol in a short period, then drive or boat hoping to get home before the alcohol is fully absorbed into their systems. Previously, if drivers could prove they weren't yet over the legal limit when they were stopped by police, a court could find them innocent. The new law removes that defence. Now, as if you just kind of, guzzle down a Mickey just before you're going home so that you can drive home and be drunk when you get there and not be pulled over. Come on, how often does that happen? Its primary purpose is to eliminate risky behaviour associated with bolus drinking, sometimes referred to as drinking and dashing, Wilson-Raybould told Parliament. But Brown calls the law a solution for a problem that rarely existed and claims it will criminalise Canadians who have done nothing wrong. He points to a number of scenarios where people park their cars with no intention of driving anytime soon and then start drinking. You can imagine a situation where a husband and wife are out together. The husband drives to the bar knowing the wife will be the designated driver on the way home and she's not going to be consuming alcohol that night. The husband drinks alcohol and is now over the limit and has driven the vehicle within the previous 2 hours, said Brown. Brown says the police could legally enter the bar or wait for the couple to leave the establishment and demand a breath sample from the husband. Even if he's walking to the passenger side of the car, if he's now over 80, added Brown, he could be arrested. Arrest has serious consequences. An arrest for driving over the limit comes with an automatic 90-day driver's license suspension and potentially increased insurance premiums. Those who fight the criminal charge in court will likely have to spend thousands of dollars on legal fees as well. According to several lawyers canvassed by CBC News, police can come to your home up to 2 hours after you stopped driving or boating to test your sobriety. Potentially complicating matters is the fact the charge is considered a reverse onus in legal terms. Essentially, that means police don't have to prove your BAC was over the limit when you were driving or boating 2 hours earlier. It's now up to you to prove that you were sober. It is unclear if anybody in Canada has been arrested under the new 2-hour law yet, but lawyers CBC News has spoken to insist that any such case will be fought all the way to the Supreme Court of Canada to test the new law's constitutionality. And Ontario's Criminal Lawyers Association has warned the government that the law could result in thousands of wrongful convictions. But we can be absolutely certain that these new powers will not be abused by the police, right? Oh, what's that you say? Mandel, cop pulls over senior for returning too many empties. It was just after noon last Saturday and the retired letter carrier had just been at the Streetsville beer store to return a month's worth of empties when the police car flashed him to stop. But let's not read it, let's take a little listen to it, shall we?
I was returning to the beer store. I had 3 cases of 24 beers and approximately 10 wine bottles. I pull into the beer store. I take the products back to the beer store. I come out, and within 2 or 3 minutes, I get pulled over by a police officer. And basically, this was the beer store was north of Britannia Road and Mississauga Road in Streetsville. And he pulls me over at approximately 100 yards or so, and he tells me to get out of the car. And I asked him first, am I being arrested for anything? Did I do something wrong with seatbelt? Texting? Well, I don't have a cell phone. Problem with the car? It's a brand new car, basically. And he said no. He said if you get out of the car and you show me your license, I'll be right back and I'll tell you exactly what's going on. Big guy, 6'5", 250 pounds. Probably has a gun. Probably has a club. Probably has handcuffs. Probably has a taser. His fists were about the size of my legs. So, am I intimidated a little bit? Absolutely. So he comes back with the license and he says, okay, well, I pulled you over because I thought you had brought back an excessive amount of bottles to a beer store. And I did mention at the time, if you wait around for a bit longer, you'll see pickup trucks pulling in. I didn't have any beer cans. I said, you'll be seeing 500,000 beer cans. beer bottles, all kinds of stuff. Well, he said, no. He says, have you been drinking today? No. When was the last time you had a drink? Friday night, I was watching a movie called Taken 2. I said, if you watch that movie, you have to have beer. It's just an awful, awful movie, but I like it. So I said, that was the last time I had a drink. He said, okay, you sure now? Is there anything else you want to tell me? No, not really. I mean, you just pulled me over. He said, well, I'm gonna go back to the car and I'm gonna give you a breathalyzer test. Okay, so basically he says, okay, do you know what this is? I said, it looks like one of those breathalyzer tests machines. And he says, yep, I want you to blow into it, take a deep breath, and blow into it. I said, well, what happens if I refuse? If you refuse, you get fined at least $2,000. You'll get your license suspended for at least a year. You will be charged, and you will probably end up having a few days in jail. I said, oh, I guess I'm going to blow into the machine. So I blew in the machine. He says, wait approximately 20 seconds, because it takes about 20 seconds, he tells me. And he said, okay. He did show me a number. He said, you passed, there's no problem. You're on your way. And we sort of chit-chatted about how many beers you should have if you do drive a car. He says, we recommend if you have to, have one beer an hour and all this kind of stuff. And then I left. And I thought this was very, very, very intimidating, very, very, very scary. And I felt violated. And then not knowing, so now I'm really scared. Like what's going to happen now in the future? They have and he told me he has the power to pull over a vehicle for no reason. I said, there's no reason here, right? He said, no. I just saw your bottles there at the beer store, and that was it.
But that would be an isolated incident, right? Oh, wait, what's this? Sober BC Senior fined for failing to blow on breathalyzer. An 82-year-old Cranbrook woman with medical problems maintained she was made to stand in the midnight chill for more than 2 hours, while RCMP officers attempted 15 times to obtain a breath sample. When the stone-cold sober pensioner with poor lung capacity was unable to blow hard enough to activate the roadside screening device, Margaret MacDonald was cited for failing to blow. Her license was suspended, she was fined $500 and her car was towed. Old but no fool, she quickly went to the local hospital where she had her blood tested for alcohol and obtained a medical certificate that said there was none, zero, nada in her system. I know if you don't have proof, no one will believe you, MacDonald explained. That's what possessed me to go to the hospital. The Mounties weren't going to get away with saying I was drunk or had been drinking. When she complained to the detachment, a corporal tried to help her out and gave her a letter supporting her appeal. It didn't matter a whit. The superintendent of motor vehicles adjudicator still found her guilty under the province's controversial drunk driving laws. I may only have 6 months, maybe a year, when you're in your 80s. You don't know how long you have left, the spunky senior told me Tuesday. Why should I have to spend my days fighting this? I'm on a fixed income and it's already cost me $6,000. I consider the whole matter to constitute a substantial wrong and a miscarriage of justice that could have been avoided if the officers involved had not jumped to the conclusion that I was impaired, had not completely ignored me, had discussed anything with me, and had given me a chance to explain anything. Not one of them even asked if I had a drink. The RCMP haven't resolved her complaint. She'd like to be reimbursed by the force for her out-of-pocket expenses, and she's seeking a judicial review of the adjudicator's decision. So there you go. I'm sure we are going to see a lot more Margaret MacDonalds, and as you can see, she's a real threat to society. Wow, this woman is so scary. She could put you down on the ground and knock you out in a heartbeat, don't you think? Don't you think? I mean, she is 82. She's got the experience. Come on. Come on. Shame on you for not knowing the difference. Shame on you for not respecting your elders. This is a disgrace, ladies and gentlemen. The police powers that are now out there on the street, and of course, we've seen how they exercise those powers, and even around here, there was a ride program that's reduced impaired driving everywhere, not 2-3 miles from here, and every single driver was stopped, not a word was said. The breathalyzer was thrust in the face of the driver, and the command was blow. And if that weren't bad enough, being able to come onto your property, I'm sure all of us can think of many, many scenarios where you could have just got home, the big game's on. You pop down to the supermarket to get some chips. As you're leaving, somebody pushes the cart and it nearly hits your vehicle, so you swerve a little bit to miss it. Somebody takes down your number plate, reports you to the police. You get home, you've cracked a couple of beers for the big game, and bang, bang, bang on the door. And you are put in this catch-22 situation. You know that you're going to blow over, so you're going to blow and be charged with drinking and driving, lose your license for a year and be fined up to $2,000, or you refuse and you get arrested. I mean, you're in a no-win situation, and this is absolutely onerous, and we all have to speak out about this. You need to phone your MPP, your MP, and moreover, this is a Liberal government that brought this in. The Liberals were traditionally about having a more laissez-faire attitude to this kind of behaviour. And I'm not condoning drinking and driving at all, but the levels of alcohol in your bloodstream for you to blow over at a breathalyzer test are so small that literally one small beer with your meal will blow you a 12-hour suspension, especially if you're my kind of build, a smaller build. You might get away with 2 if you are slightly larger, up into sort of the 250 to 300 pound body range. I'm about 150, 160, and so it's going to have a much greater effect on myself. So this is a very, very, very dangerous step, and we must not allow this to stand. And thank God there are some lawyers talking out about this. I cannot believe this even got past any kind of a judge, because anybody with any kind of common sense would see that this is riddled with opportunities for abuse. What happens if you have a vindictive neighbour? You've had an argument with your neighbour. A vindictive lover. You've fallen out with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. I mean, come on, there's endless possibilities to abuse a 2-hour rule from when you were seen driving, and it doesn't even say whether you have to get the police to produce evidence that it was within the 2-hour limit. I mean, how does that work? Do I not have a right to insist before I do anything that you can prove that I was in my vehicle 2 hours ago? And of course it's up to me to prove that I wasn't. This is hideous. It's absolutely hideous. And anyway, I don't think it'll stand a constitutional challenge. It will be amended in some way, and thank goodness for that. But you've got to keep your eyes and ears open, because these laws, they are so far reaching, and this means that your children are in a lot of trouble with this law. Okie dokie, well, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe below. Please leave a comment. We love to hear your comments. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve, thanking you and signing off, hoping you have a great week to come, and we'll talk very, very soon. Okay, see you now. Bye.